Hello, my name's Charles McIntyre and I'm the CEO and founder of a business called Ibis Capital. And Ibis Capital is focused very much on the education and training space, particularly as it relates to technology and the disruption that's having right across the sector today.
And can we talk about how investment is driving innovation in education and learning?
Yes, I mean it's very interesting. I mean the education technology EdTech market is something that, particularly in Europe, is highly fragmented, and there are a lot of young companies. And we looked back at some of the EdTech startups that have been happening. And what's interesting is that actually it was about 5 years ago, which was the sort of golden year of EdTech startups around the world, but also here in Europe. And what, from our perspective, is trying to work out how to make sure those businesses are properly funded, because without the funding, they will not grow into the businesses that can help make a real difference to the future. And Europe, we sadly are struggling, really, as it compares to other parts of the world. So China is really the dominant leader in funding new EdTech business. The US follows behind them, and then in a poor third, we have Europe. And I think part of the reason is that we're good at investing in businesses that are slightly bigger, but we're not very good at investing in really young businesses. And those businesses tend to depend on accessing capital from either small specialized funds or from high net worth individuals who are using tax breaks like EIS and other things to fund those. And what we really need is actually a more systematic support or systemic support of what's happening in this space. And what we're trying to do through this event today, EdTechX, is really trying to bring together all the different ingredients that you need for that. So investors, young companies, some of the bigger strategic companies. And having that mix in all one place helps provide the fuel and energy to make that change. And that's what we're looking for here today.
Charles, can we talk about identifying the skills gap and how to be able to move that forward and how to be able to deliver on the skills gap?
No, of course. I think this is fascinating because obviously education and training and the workplace are all inextricably linked. And what we see today really is this big gap between the supply of skills and what the workforce and employers are actually looking for. And our question really is how to try and address that big gap. And we've estimated that on a global perspective, that gap is damaging the global economy to the tune of probably about $13 trillion. So it's a huge issue. And the problem really stems from the fact that within the institutional supply of skills, so further education, higher education, apprenticeships, all these types of, they're not responding quick enough really to the skills that are being asked for. And where do we see this? Well, we see it in the fact that there are now private supply, there are coding boot camps and the like, who are all emerging to be able to fill in the holes that are not being addressed by the institutional supply. And that is a real sign of that mismatch not actually being solved. So I think our big call is, both from the investment side but also from government and others, is look at what's actually happening and actually try and be on the front foot and anticipate the skills that we'll need for the 21st century, rather than trying to just change what exists today. And if we can do that, we have a huge competitive advantage against the rest of the world, but vice versa, if we don't, we'll lose out.